Philadelphia Eagles fan base is living through yet another offseason of sky-high expectations, my friend. And that is exactly why I need to ask you an uncomfortable question. What if all this hype is fooling you? What if the ranking that placed the Eagles among the best rosters in the NFL is based more on the reputation of a past title than on what this team actually showed on the field in the most recent season? Because there is a side to this story most fan channels do not want to tell you. There is one half of this roster that is genuinely elite, worthy of all the hype, and there is another half that spent the last few months stumbling, aging, losing pieces, and switching schemes in the dark. The question that separates the realistic fan from the deluded one is simple. Which of these two halves is going to define the 2026 season? I am going to present both sides of this story with no filter whatsoever. The side that justifies the optimism and the side that should be making you nervous. But first, if you are a die-hard Eagles fan, hit that like button and subscribe right now. Because at the end of this video, I want to know which side of this argument you are on. And I am betting the comments are going to boil. Let's start with the good side, because it is real and nobody here is going to pretend otherwise. The Eagles' defense in 2026 is terrifying. John McMullen, a columnist who follows the team closely, made it clear that Vic Fangio's defense is the #1 reason this franchise deserves to be taken seriously as a contender. The pass rush is possibly the deepest in the entire league. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Moro Ojomo on the interior, with Jonathan Greenard arriving from Minnesota on a 4-year, $98 million contract to reinforce the edges alongside Nolan Smith. Linebacker Jihaad Campbell steps into a full-time starting role after a rookie year that excited everyone. And the secondary has 2 All-Pros in Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, plus the arrival of Rick Woolen, all topics we already explored in detail in previous videos on this channel. In Fangio's first 2 years, this defense finished as the #1 overall unit in the NFL in 2024 and 5th in points allowed in 2025. This is the side that says yes to all the hype. But now comes the part the fan base does not want to hear, because the same analysis that praises the defense fires off a giant red alert about the other side of the ball. And here is the question you need to face. When was the last time you saw this offense actually play at the level its reputation suggests? It was not in 2025. Last season, the Eagles' offense finished among the bottom 10 in the league in passing yards per game, tied for the most 3-and-out drives in the NFL, and watched Jalen Hurts post a negative expected points added mark over the final 9 games of the season. Saquon Barkley plummeted from 2,283 scrimmage yards in 2024 to just 1,413 in 2025. And an anonymous coordinator from the league itself has already publicly pointed out that Barkley needs everything perfectly set up in front of him to produce, a criticism we already discussed in a recent video. A.J. Brown, one of the best wide receivers in the league, was traded to the New England Patriots. This is the side that says, maybe not to all the hype, and it is just as real as the other. And there is more reason for skepticism, if you are being honest with yourself. The offensive line, which has always been the absolute pride of this franchise, spent the 2025 season falling apart with injuries. Landon Dickerson playing the entire year in pain after knee surgery. Lane Johnson missing a good chunk of the second half of the season with a foot injury. Cam Jurgens also coming back from surgery. And Lane Johnson, one of the anchors of that line, is not getting any younger. The skeptical question here is direct. Do you really trust that this offensive line is going to return to 100% health after an entire year of getting beaten up? Or are you just hoping that happens because it is what the hype requires you to believe? And at the center of all this uncertainty sits the biggest blind bet of the entire offseason: Sean Mannion. The Eagles fired Kevin Patullo and handed the entire offense to a coordinator who is installing a completely new scheme, inspired by the Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay coaching tree, with more under-center snaps than Hurts has ever played in his career, more play action, more pre-snap motion. On paper, that sounds exciting. But let's be skeptical for a second. You are being asked to believe that a radical scheme change, led by a first-time coordinator in this leadership role, with a quarterback coming off the worst season of his career, is just going to work right away. How many times in NFL history has such a drastic scheme transition succeeded right in the first year? That is a genuine bet, and bets, by definition, can go wrong. And here is the stat that should make every euphoric fan stop for a second. NFL history itself is merciless with champions defending their title. In 56 Super Bowl era seasons, 17 defending champions simply failed to even reach the playoffs the following year. Think about that. Roughly 1 in every 3 Super Bowl champions was left out of the postseason the next season. And the most frightening example is too recent to ignore. The Kansas City Chiefs, the same team the Eagles crushed 40-22 in Super Bowl LIX, had won 9 straight AFC West Division titles. And in the season following that loss, they completely collapsed and missed the playoffs. If Patrick Mahomes' franchise, considered a dynasty, can fall like that, what exactly guarantees the Eagles are immune? The honest answer is, nothing guarantees it. The so-called Super Bowl hangover is real, documented, and brutal, and the antidote to it is never reputation. It is consistent performance across 17 games, something the Eagles' offense simply did not deliver in 2025. Now, the counter-argument exists, and I am going to be fair in presenting it, because this is where the debate gets good. The optimistic fan will say, this same problematic offense won Super Bowl LIX 16 months ago. This same Jalen Hurts was the MVP of that final. This same Saquon Barkley proved that, with a clean structure in front of him, he leads the entire league in yards. And if the criticism of Barkley is that he needs a good scheme to shine, then what Mannion's scheme was designed to do is exactly deliver that structure back to him. The optimist will say the defense is so dominant that it alone carries this team to the playoffs, while the offense finds its rhythm. And it is not an absurd thesis. Elite defenses have historically bought time for rebuilding offenses. The question is whether you believe the defense is good enough to cover the holes while the rest gets sorted out. But the skeptic will fire right back. How many of those 17 champions who missed the playoffs also had talent on paper and an elite defense before the season started? The answer is, almost all of them. Nobody predicts a collapse in July. The collapse happens precisely when the talent on paper does not translate into results on the field, when injuries pile up, when the new scheme stalls, when the quarterback does not rediscover his own version. That is exactly the risk McMullen's analysis is pointing to, and that is exactly the risk the fan base's hype prefers to ignore. Talent does not play. Reputation does not score. And the history of the entire league shows that the gap between best roster on paper and team that disappoints is far narrower than any fan likes to admit. So here is the heart of this entire discussion, and it is where I need your opinion. ESPN's ranking placed the Eagles as the second best roster in the NFL. But roster rankings measure talent on paper. They do not measure health. They do not measure the chemistry of a new scheme. They do not measure whether a quarterback will rediscover his championship version. The skeptical thesis is that this number 2 ranking is, in part, reputation bias. The Eagles are recent champions, so they get the benefit of the doubt that the 2025 performance alone might not have justified. The talent says yes. The recent reality whispers maybe not. And between those two opposing signals, there is an entire 17-game season that will provide the definitive answer. I have already given you both sides without dressing up either of them. The defense that terrifies the NFC and the offense that spent 2025 stumbling. The proud offensive line that now depends on injury recoveries, a new scheme that is exciting and risky in equal parts, and an NFL history that humbles defending champions with frightening frequency. Now the decision is yours, Eagles fan, and I want you to be very specific in the comments. Are you on the side that believes talent wins, and that this roster fully justifies being considered one of the 2 or 3 best in the NFL? Or are you on the skeptical side, that sees a franchise surfing on the reputation of a past title, while ignoring the real warning signs 2025 left everywhere? Do not sit on the fence. Pick a side and defend it in the comments. Do not forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I will be back later to keep you updated with the latest Eagles news.